first and foremost, yeah, thank you everybody for joining us for the first photo critique. Yeah, let's just jump into it. We're a couple minutes late.
All right.
Let's go for it.
Hi, everybody. When we're going through these photos, we're going to be looking at, I'm going to put it this way, elements within composition that we want to pay attention to whenever creating photos or like making our images. But also we might get into the philosophy of like making images every once in a while. So try to bear with me. If you have any questions, I believe that you can forward them to Stephen. Stephen will then like shout them out to me. So let's get into it. We've got a couple of photos from Tio David, and he was an awesome dude. I actually really enjoy a lot of his images that he sends me every once in a while. But first things first, let's take a look at this image. I'm assuming that this is one of the protesters at the Black Lives Matter rallies that have been happening in downtown Buffalo. But when it comes to the image that we have here, let's start off. There's a lot going on in this image. We have an individual that's in the foreground that is very much in focus, wearing a mask that clearly says Black Lives Matter. And we also have some individuals in the background of the image. Now, for documentation's sake, this is a good image because it's giving you exactly what you have directly in front of you during an event. But I will say that it is a little crowded. Okay, there's a lot going on here. We have a lot going on here, 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 and remember, this doesn't necessarily make this a bad image. It's just more so that since there is a lot of crowding, there's also a lot of distraction. It isn't exactly crowding that helps the image in any way other than knowing that there's a lot of people in the photograph. I mean, again, if you're just documenting an event and not really worrying about aesthetics, that's absolutely okay. But we want to be mindful of all the distraction that we do have in our photograph and try to minimize that while making sure that our viewers or our audience is paying attention to what is supposed to be, the main focus of your image. So that's what we have going on right here. And sometimes you can, of course, change the circumstance of your image. So you have to work with what you have. But I mean, it's kind of hard to say that, you have to do this differently whenever making an image like this. But I'd say maybe look for an individual that has a little bit more focus to them without too much interruption in what's going on in the background. So that means that you have to be a little bit more patient as a photographer sometimes and look for things that seem a little bit more deliberate and purposeful, as well as serendipitous, meaning that there's a moment that's flourishing right in front of you, and you have to take advantage of that moment. So this is good. This is an activist that or an attender. An attendee of the protest, but it's an image that is good content imagery, meaning that like if it's with other images, it'll work. By itself, it doesn't really stand, all that easily. Now this is interesting because this is a different perspective. Perspective was taken into account with this image. We have some people that are a little bit lower to the ground. So I'm guessing that Tio either shot a little bit lower than waist level or at waist level, or decided to get lower with his subject matter. At least that's what it seems like here. And I like the color that's appearing in this image because there is really wonderful sort of conversation in color here. I like the bouncing around that we have here with color. So we have our sneakers here, the wording or the lettering on the chest on both shirts. We have a lot of white and black, so a lot of contrast. We have this white mask, this black mask, and these are opposite of each other. And then the black shirt with the white shirt. And then we have all this wonderful color. But there are some things that we can get rid of with this image by doing a in-camera crop. And that doesn't mean that you're cropping directly from, inside of your camera when you're viewing on your screen, on your LCD screen, but more so moving closer or further away from your subject matter to include more or close in on more. So this right here, we don't need very much of. In fact, if this person wasn't here, then that would be much better. Even like deciding to ask someone if they could just move aside a little. And I know that this is a sensitive situation, but at the same time, you might want to move yourself as the photographer to get a little bit more of an angle on the two subjects that are, here. Let's see, right here. Now, this space over here, there's a lot to fill in. And that's something that I think about as well when making photographs, especially when, changing my perspective. I like the line that we have here with the legs and also the bottles, but this space right here is just a lot. There's a lot of emptiness. So we have to figure out a way to fill that in by either changing our perspective or our angle on our subjects, even deciding that you're going to, here, I'll erase this out of the way. Right. Even if you were to round this area right about here, so you can get a little bit more of a squared up view of our subjects might work. So we should be mindful of all the space that we have within our image whenever we're viewing within our viewfinder, whenever we're spotting our image. But this empty space is mostly what's getting me, and also this appearance of the individual that is in our foreground and also out of focus, but interrupting the image very heavily. It serves for it doesn't really serve, but it makes for a huge distraction, like on the side of our frame. Now this one I enjoy. Great monochrome image, like great black and white image. The only things that I have to say about this in terms of, improvement, first of all, let's go with this. We have a lot of good line here. Let's see. A lot of good line here, which is, bringing our eye over here. We're moving along this line. Okay. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay. But there is a lot going on this side of our image in terms of mass. There's a huge mass there, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but this white spot serves as a little bit of a distraction where I want that solid mass of like heavy black and very bright whites, that contrast to be present, I do enjoy the line that I'm seeing here and going into this, this right-hand third of our frame. But having a lot of that mass it's kind of distracting since it's very dark except for that peak point that we have right here. What I would do is I would try to cut this off right here. And when taking my image into the dark room, maybe, this is how I feel about it, maybe dodging a little bit of this, but that streak that we have here kind of makes that hard, but dodging some of this out. Or, depends on which way you want to go with that. There's so much that you can do with this image. You might want to dodge some of the areas where there's very little information, but also burn some of the areas that we have here that are a little bit too bright. This one's interesting. Can we come back to some of these, if that's okay? I want to think on this because I don't want to rush through this one.
The next one is one of my favorite images, so I'm excited to see what you think.
Okay. Now this is nice. I do enjoy this. And honestly, I even like this inclusion of this right here. I'm guessing that that's an imperfection with the film, or it might be a line, might be there's no telephone line that goes right across that. I've seen that view, right? Yeah, it might be an imperfection with the film, but for some reason I do enjoy it, like right across the top there.
Tio, you can, if you've got comments, you can jump in too.
Yeah, please.
That was I developed that film, so that's the Kodak Tri-X.
Okay.
I think that's just an imperfection when I developed it, to be honest.
I actually don't mind it. Like I don't mind that imperfection there. But if you wanted to get rid of it, then let's say we cropped our photo down just a little bit more.
Yeah.
About there. So let's pay attention to what we have within this red bounding box. Oops. Bring that back. Wow, this is very interactive. This is cool. So I like this image a lot, and I enjoy it because there's a lot of layer here. There's a good amount of depth. I can see very clearly our stoplights or our traffic lights that are in our foreground. The middle ground, nice and in focus, and so is the background. This is a great and very resolved image. The only thing that I'd change out of all of this is maybe there's something about the Liberty Building, especially here, where This gray is getting a little bit too close to this gray I have here. Those values are just a little bit too close. So I would like to see some sort of change up in that when taking this into the darkroom. I don't know, Stephen, what do you think? Like I'm thinking that when it comes to the facade of the building, maybe dodging it just a touch, but then it's going to mesh a little bit more with what's going on there. What would you say?
The only thing that I can see on this image is like when you were shooting it, when you're composing, just like moving the camera a half an inch to the right so that where that hard shadow line, I love that hard shadow line. I want that hard shadow line to fall right between those two stoplights. Like just that little bit over. But I love the Liberty Building. Like I keep like the shape, the triangles and high contrast triangles with it, but everything is still sharp and everything is still, it's not completely gone. When I saw it the first time, I really enjoyed this image.
That's another thing here that I have to say is really beautiful. The use of diagonals and triangles. So got this. Let's see if that pen registers down here. Yeah, it does. Okay. Got this going on here. We got this wonderful line here. Got some wonderful angles here. Like I love the way that it's so resolved and that it has so much depth to it. I think the only thing that I'd change is just how we end up dodging and burning certain aspects of it. I love this hard shadow portion here. I love this. I love the detail that we have in these windows. But there's something about this for me that I want to change. And at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm being fair and helpful and not just looking at this image for a couple of seconds and deciding right off the bat that, you know, there's something lost here. So I'm going to take a little bit more time to think about this one as well. But this one definitely so far is my favorite of the three that we've looked at. And, you know, again, I do like that imperfection, that line that appears there. But at the same time, if we cropped it in, it's still going to be a beautiful image. So let's come back to this as well. Well, okay, those will stay. Great. Now, this reminds me very much of like a very, like it's like a happenstance photo. I do like what I'm getting here. There's some kind of like character play I'm getting out of these guys right here. And I'm loving the inclusion of the manhole cover in the foreground, as well as our car coming into the frame. There's a lot of like random action happening here, even though there are, you know, objects that aren't sentient and that are inanimate, that aren't moving. It's almost like they're characters in a little bit of a production. I love this hard shadow as well, where this SUV is moving out of. But there is a lot of just emptiness here, even though it kind of works in terms of flow. There's just a lot of emptiness here. If I could have something fill in these parts right here, I would love that even more. So my eye can bounce, or like, let's see if I can get that line direct, you know, through all of these. I would love that. Does Theo have anything to say about that or no?
I'm looking for a subject. The closest thing I get to is I like the reflection of the stoplight on the no turn on red.
Mm-hmm, right here.
Yeah, like that. If that were bigger or cropped down, the right side of the image doesn't. I don't need the shadow. Like to the right of the crosswalk, I could lose that, and there's enough other detail. Because there's a lot of little things going on that you can keep moving through and looking at everything else.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, that shadow, I love that shadow just because it's like, it's almost as if that face of the SUV, the grill of the SUV is coming in as a character. And I think the other thing is that I really love making photographs of people, you know, as well as scenes with people in it. So I may be pretty biased when it comes to an image like this. And that's why I'm looking for, characters within those two spots right here that are pretty empty. But I do like this bounce, this potential bounce that we have between all of these objects. Yeah, it's just those spaces I'd like to fill something in, or I'm sorry, I'd like to use something to fill in those spaces that I have there. All right, let's move to our next photographer, Pat Payson. Oh, it's beautiful. Very, very painterly. Very soft. I like this image. I like the amount of negative space that we have here. The negative space works out beautifully. And the contrast here is really nice too. The purple, like complementing that green, I'm enjoying that as well. I mean, I'm not very much of a still life photographer, macro photographer, but this image is really beautiful just because of the color that we have in it, as well as that white that's popping from directly underneath those purple petals. And I mean, again, being pretty biased as a people photographer or a scene photographer with people in it, I'm loving that there's like this almost human-like aspect to flowers, where it seems like it's jumping, jumping in this direction. There's some movement here that that my eye wants to make up for this photo that I'm really enjoying. But that negative space really gets me with that green and also the purple that we have. This is beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, they can hear all that. Okay. Now this one's good, but for this symmetry, you can definitely benefit from symmetry and some balance, because this photograph is angled a little bit more towards the left-hand side of this church. So it's almost as if I'm almost against this wall and I'm aiming like over towards the left. I don't know if that could be if that's being explained correctly, or if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But symmetry would definitely benefit this photograph a little bit more, because right now what my mind is doing is it's just getting a snapshot of something that I could see in a very direct way that what's the word that I'm looking for? That pacifies like my mind with what's going on here. Like the visual that I'm seeing is good. It's very beautiful because it's a beautifully lit church from the inside. I love that I can get the detail out of the stained glass. But symmetry is definitely your friend in a situation like this. Balance is definitely your friend in a situation like this. Everything here it can be split in half beautifully. Even I'm guessing that's the priest or pastor. I'm guessing that's the priest in this church. He's directly in the middle, right over that cross, and right underneath this cross. And that would look very beautiful. It's just shot directly from like 0.0 of being squared up with him. So I'd say definitely symmetry is your best friend in this. But I will say that I love the fact that there is a color conversation here. Really wonderful blue with these really warm tones we have throughout the rest of the photo. And even though it's nice to see another element of what's going on in this environment, this is just a little bit of a distraction in the top left-hand corner. I mean, if it could be applied in a different way, maybe it'll work, but this is just a little bit more of a distraction right now. Enjoy this. Almost at that rule of thirds. Almost. Nothing has to be completely centered, but let's say that we were splitting this into thirds. Come on. It's kind of hard to... So I like that the tip of the snout is right over our left-hand top third. okay, this subject intersection point. And I like the fact that since it's not centered and it is on that intersection point, it's kind of giving my eye this beautiful movement of, you know, looking directly at this fella and then paying attention to the negative space in the background that we have here. Beautiful amount of negative space. You know, very bright highlights, you know, some not deep shadows, but it's getting pretty dark in this lower right-hand corner. And we have our wonderful subject right here that makes for, you know, it's a pretty picture to look at. There's not too much going on, and it's a nice close-up of an animal that we don't usually get to see so close. And I do enjoy that rule of third, but I would like to see more of risk being taken in the photos now.
Okay.
This is good though, but just let's see what happens when you take a little bit more risk.
Okay.
With including things in the background or trying to catch something in the background that may be supplemental to what's going on in our foreground. Adding a little bit more of subject matter. Maybe, I don't know if there were more. What's this animal called? It's not a lemur, is it?
It's a lemur. Yeah.
It is? It's a
At the
lemur?
Buffalo
I
Zoo.
knew that one.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So yeah, were there any other lemurs in the background or anything like that?
Yeah, but to get them to be close enough together, it was kind of impossible.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for right now, this is this is a good portrait of lemur. I enjoy this.
Thanks.
I will say, if post-processing, I mean, some photographers just shoot straight on and then they reveal their images straight out of camera. That's fine. That means you have to get it right in camera, of course, and you should be looking to get it right in camera all the time.
Mhm.
But I'd try to drop down some of the highlight that I have here, just a little bit.
Okay.
Now this one. Okay. So what I do like about this photograph is the attempted framing. This is
I'm
wonderful.
looking out of a window in a pub in England.
This is wonderful. Like I love this. But patience and also decisive moment, making sure that he is just a little bit further within this frame here.
Okay.
Then it would be really successful. If he was, I mean, if we're talking about the photo, if he was about a quarter of an inch inward, you know, just a little bit further, covering up that 5, he'd be directly within that door frame, and that would be a perfect example of framing.
Okay.
Now, also, we have a lot of, you know, just here, I'm trying to scribble this in. Can they at least see the pen moving on there?
Yeah.
Anything? They can? Okay. Like even if it's not drawing?
Yeah, it's a little tiny point.
Yeah. So all this right here, there's no information right here. So I would bring in this photo just a little bit. Oh, oops. Let's see. How would I zoom, Stephen?
I think pinch.
Pinch? Nope. 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 Yeah. Here. Let's try this. Control plus. No. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So maybe a little bit of that. If you could include a little bit of the windowsill on the top, that would be great too, if that's possible. But more so for me, waiting until this gentleman is right in the middle of that door frame.
Okay.
Ooh, there's a lot of texture there. A lot of detail. Okay. So this image, there is a lot going on. There's a lot of texture, a lot of detail. I mean, at the risk of sounding nitpicky, I just want you to move over just slightly right here with this frame, including a little bit more over here.
All right.
Just because I want this to finish off. You know, I want there to be a little bit more room here. There's nothing wrong with getting detail. Like the detail in this image is great, but when it comes to does this image stand well on its own, honestly, I don't think so. Unless you're making sure that everything is highly resolved, like in the background, because it's starting to fall a little short in focus and sharpness.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think this image stands so well on its own, but it is full of texture and full of color and full of detail. It's almost overstimulating, but in a good way. I don't know if everybody feels the same about being overstimulated when it comes to stuff like this, but it's not bad. Just I would prefer that there's a little bit more going on over here.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, no problem at all, Pat. I'm sorry that I just like rolled into the next one. I just didn't know that that was going to be it. But
That's
thanks,
cool.
Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you, T.O. as well. Sorry for yelling because I think that you guys can hear me just fine. I have the microphone on me. Okay, Chris Zenya. Oh, wow. Beautiful amount of symmetry. This image makes me feel very delighted. Yeah, the color on that is beautiful. I'm loving, oh man, I'm loving this. Loving that. And that green. I'm guessing did you post-process this, Chris?
Yes, I use Lightroom.
Okay. And I'm guessing that you boosted up the shadows a little bit, like you brightened up the shadows?
It's been a while since I processed that one. I don't think it was too boosted, and
Okay.
the saturation was not much. I mean, I got lucky with the evening sunset there. I got some nice color, and
Nice.
the lighting of the field was pretty, sufficient to saturate the colors.
Nice.
So I did crop to find all that symmetry to make sure that it lined up as I hoped.
Okay. Beautiful. Oh, ooh, what happened there? Beautiful symmetry. Beautiful. Great job. A lot of good balance here too. This is a good shot. There's nothing that I'm gonna come at about this. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm coming at anything that we have here. It's just that there's nothing here that that I'm gonna go too deep into in terms of like critiquing.
Feel free.
I would be interested to see what this image looked like straight out of camera at the same time. The reason being is because if you do, like let's just say there is something that you do want to get out of me talking about your images or critiquing,
Right.
let's start talking about exposure and making sure that your exposure is dead on each time, so you have an easier time if you're going to be post processing, or
Gotcha.
if you decide that you're just going to be using the images straight out of camera. How do they look straight out of camera?
Right. Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot going on here, but it's all beautiful. And I'm not saying that in a biased way because I like baseball or anything like that. I could care less about baseball. I couldn't care less about baseball. My dad used to make me watch it all the time when I was a kid. And but there is something really beautiful about watching or looking through someone else's lens at this sport in such a beautiful way, and it's so colorful. So yeah, I love this a lot. I even love the billboards in the background that are so colorful.
The curve, the way the curve, like the curve towards the bottom mirrors the curve of the back of the diamond.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Right, that, and it just because of the shape of it, but yeah, like it's a sweet image.
Yeah, there's so much to enjoy here.
Cool. Thank you.
And I'm even loving all the little pops of color. All little pops of color that we have here. There's a lot of pastels.
I did not plant that.
Bright, vivid colors. That's great. All right, next image. Huh. Interesting. Now, here's the thing about okay, so if you want to get into the philosophy of photo, not too far into the philosophy of photo, but I enjoy this image, and at the same time, I do have some things that I want to touch upon when it comes to composition.
Please do.
I enjoy this image because it's a very interesting individual, like very interesting character. And the reason why I say that is because it's not too common that you find women smoking cigars out in public, and I mean her outfit is amazing. The touches of gold that you have there and the little boost of color from the purse. I love the look of this. Like this individual is very intriguing, as well as the combination of a little bit of the blue in the background. This is a very intriguing character, but at the same time, when it comes to the composition, being mindful of how your subject is moving and making sure that you're getting a number of images of that subject moving and trying to apply something that really caters to the immediate assumption that most people have whenever looking at photographs. Now, I try to make sure that like when I'm making my images, you're just enjoying them as they are. You know, you don't really have to assume anything about the person. But being humans, people do generally just start with assumptions or judgments based off of looking at the image. And that's an exercise that we can talk about. I mean, that's something that we can, you know, try to move past, or, you know, try to correct. But it is something that happens automatically when you do look at images. I mean, humans are just association, you know, machines. So the gesture of our subject, I'm not really about. Like, there could be a little bit more of dynamic movement there. Even waiting for the individual to take a drag out of the cigar. Really doing a little bit of a study on the individual while you have the time. I don't know if you know, you had to keep on
I
moving.
truthfully had no time. This was one shot that I picked up my camera and says, wow, this is something. And then I was fortunate in some respects to find the blue line, the flag, the rails, you know, set up to create a little bit of lines. But this was I did not have time on this. I understand and I appreciate what you're saying, because the action, you know, like you said, of perhaps drag on the cigar would be definitely more interesting. But yeah, so I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. It's just like when in the future, if you do have time, I understand that, you know, not everybody's main focus is photo, and sometimes you are just trying to get an interesting photo as you're keeping it moving. But if you have if you do have the time next time, make sure that you take the time, because you can make a really beautiful image out of something like this.
Right.
You know, this is a great starting point. It's a good base. But to go, you know, just a little bit further with making sure that you're waiting, or you're being patient with that subject and what they're doing, and trying to make a, you know, a decisive, very purposeful, deliberate image as they're engaging with themselves and also with whatever materials they have on them. That's when you start getting very interesting images out of your subject matter.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's a good start. It's just that we got to move just a little bit further. So now what I challenge you to do is, next time that you decide that you're going to go making pictures of people, look for some engaging and interesting characters, but wait on them.
Okay.
You know, make sure that you're taking the time.
Cool.
Now, as for composition, like the rest of the composition, I mean, if we're doing rule of thirds, yeah, technically it fits. You know, she's right on that subject intersection line, and so is the cigar. That's awesome. But with what's going on in the background, it doesn't really work as well. And the same thing goes for that barrier that we have there. So, you know, there is a lot that could come out of having the time to make the photograph.
Right.
And maybe if you were there for a little bit longer, that bus might not be there, you know? And the blue line, I can even do without that if the background is a little bit more interesting. But as for rule of thirds, yeah, it works out with the rule of thirds. But now you have to ask yourself, even though rule of thirds is established here, is the photograph interesting with the rule of thirds, or could it still work without it? And honestly, if you decided to change your perspective or shift around your subject, it probably could still work without it, because again, the subject is very interesting.
I didn't know if keeping the flag in there, you know, and the city barriers, the bus, created more of a urban feel to it, or if she alone, you know, stood. And I also was looking at the red, white, and blue thematically, if you will, which is why I kind of kept the flag in there. But I'm appreciating the violation of the rule, you know, is part of the rule. Yeah,
that's good. Okay. And also I will say this too. Do you go to the city a lot?
No. No,
okay.
I actually
do you like to make images inside of like urban areas?
This was a first time ever experience. I took my camera into the city. I walked around. I actually had emailed you a little descript. I tried different things. I tried kind of like this quick candid shot. I tried from the hip. I tried asking people, and it was a very uncomfortable day, but I pushed myself through it just so that I'd have the experience, and so that I could build upon it. So it's not something I have experience. I'm more of a birding photographer, frankly.
Okay.
So this was outside my comfort zone by far, but I knew I would learn a lot by doing it.
So, okay. So what I'd suggest is this: look at the work of Giles Clement.
I'm gonna write that down.
Okay. And also, I hope that I'm not mispronouncing his name. It might be Giles Clement.
Okay.
But also look at Andre Wagner's work. Andre Wagner shoots primarily in black and white,
Okay.
but he shoots in New York City, and he's a fantastic street photographer that focuses primarily on people.
Okay.
So that can give you a little bit of an understanding of how to work in, a very fast moving environment
Right.
that's very crowded with lots of people. Also take a look at Bruce Gilden. The reason why I say that is because I understand how uncomfortable it can be when it comes to making photographs of people. But as someone, I don't know if we've interacted before. I'm sorry that the name doesn't ring a
No
bell.
problem. That's you had done that webinar going back about 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
So I learned from you then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to also as an educator, I like to make sure that my students, well, back when I was teaching photo at like Locus and also what I do now, I like to make sure that people understand that, change and growth is about being uncomfortable a lot of the time. And it's only going to make you better at what you do, or it's going to open you up to things that you possibly might be great at. So I'd say keep on talking to people if you're going to be making photographs of people, especially. And again, this is a very good base, but I want to see where you can go from here.
Cool. I'm inspired too. Thank you.
Ooh, interesting. So I like the color of this image. I like the silkiness that I see here from the water, but it's not quite in sharp focus. And it's very hard to get good detail out of this, especially since there's a lot here that I can't really map out, but there's enough there that it's distracting.
Okay.
So we want to work on getting the information, the detail out of this, as well as keeping our subject here in focus, like in pure focus and very sharp. Did you crop in on this at all?
I did crop in on it. I was trying to manage the refractive effect of the light so that he has like the double eye and then the reflection that's also doing the same thing, because the water never left his skin, even over his eye. So that's part of that challenge there. I didn't know if it was a matter of focus or if it was just highlighting that reflectiveness. I did it low key because I found to kind of bring your attention to him, but it is not the most comfortable thing to look at, I'll admit.
Yeah, it's like it's a little bit more of, and this is no slight to you personally at all. It's just a little bit more of a like my eyes have a hard time looking at this. Just because of that element of like it being very unsharp and slightly out of focus, but I am enjoying the color and also the bits of light that are bouncing. I'm loving these, but that's, for me, it's just not enough to save the photograph.
Okay.
I am also enjoying the reflection that we have there, but when you cropped it, I'd be interested to see what the full image looks like, to see if we can work with something from there.
Okay.
Because right now it is very close, and you start to see the imperfection, and sometimes imperfections don't matter. I mean, not every beautiful photograph is completely sharp or in focus, but there is almost this element of purposefulness, like behind a lot of those images that I like that are like that.
Gotcha.
Right? Now that's beautiful. That's very beautiful. Beautiful portrait. Is this a peacock?
Yep.
You getting this right? Okay, cool.
At
Man,
the
I'm bad
Bronx
with animals, let me tell you. But yeah, this is a very beautiful portrait. I even love the color of the background. Like the color of the background does well, like so well against that blue. That little tinge of green that we have here too. Loving that. Very sharp, very much in focus. I can get the detail out of this. This could be a big print. It looks good. Now, the color I absolutely love, but what makes me so intrigued by this image is not just the color, it's the fact that I could see this being in black and white and working out beautifully as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Like really. But the color is absolutely beautiful, and I love the fact that it's completely sharp. I hope that this doesn't sound weird, and I think that we talked about it in the last seminar that we did, the virtual one. But I mean, I'm just going to say it just because I can. It is what it is. Like whenever it comes to making photographs of people, a lot of the time, especially people with a lot of texture on their faces, I really love the idea of being able to tell what it's like, to understand all the texture or, like just anything that's going on in their face. I really like the ability to understand what that is. You know,
Okay.
if you were to take a picture of me like very up close in the sunlight, you notice that there's a little bit of red in my beard. And I like the fact that people might be able to spot something like that.
Uh-huh.
Very intriguing elements of a subject. And this really gives me that. I love the fact that I can tell what the texture is like on this bird. Beautiful job.
Is that why you like? Are you thinking black and white because it'll really go with the textural aspect of it?
Textural aspect as well as the tone. Like the tone
Okay.
range would be beautiful in black and white as well.
Okay.
Like it'll seriously, if you were to make this black and white and you were to start playing around with dodging and burning certain aspects of this,
Uh-huh.
this would it would be a whole nother version, like a completely different version that gives you something else, but at the same time gives you the same. I would like to see that as well, but the color is absolutely beautiful in this.
Cool. Thank you.
Texture in the out of focus area in the background, and I see where Vicente is saying the black and white works. It's not like a normal bokeh where you've got all the little dots of out of focus. It's because it looks like it's grass back there, and
Yeah.
crisscrossing. You've got a lot of lines, and so that like there's texture in that milky soft bokeh.
Like I
Those
could just
are
draw
actually
around all of
little
these.
haystacks.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like this, good job on this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I will say this though, and this is, I don't want you guys to think that I'm like knocking you down after every compliment, but I think that it's a good exercise to, you know, tell people exactly what you love about an image and then what can be improved upon. Now in this image, is there anything that can be improved upon? Not anything that I can see right here. It's just what I will say is take more risk now when it comes to making your portraits.
Okay.
Like, let's see where you can go even further from this, because now we know that you can make a really good portrait of a bird or a peacock pretty close. You know, it looks beautiful as it is, but now I want to see where you go when it's moving or when it's not doing exactly what you want it to do, and how you can make that work for your to your advantage.
Okay.
So remember, like, think about all the compositional elements that we should consider when making portraits, or just any photograph altogether. You know, you have balance, symmetry, depth of field, or depth altogether, point of focus. We have to remember. We have to remember perspective. Okay, if you change the perspective ever so slightly, that changes your image almost completely.
Right.
Yeah, think about all those things. Take a risk.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is beautiful too. Yeah, I'm loving the movement of this. Ooh. Loving the fact that, you know, it's kind of dipping into the right side of the frame. The white around it works really well. I can tell that there's a little bit of like seems like a little bit of a burn on the bottom, like right here. It's a little bit darker here. And there are also, I don't know if you can see this too, Stephen, but there are like little streaks. Is it just the screen? No, I can see it when I move see those?
I can't see them.
Here, let me erase these.
In the bottom right corner,
Mm-hmm.
or the bottom left corner, you can erase all too.
Okay. You don't see those streaks that are there?
Let me pull up the actual.
I mean, the white is stark. It offers some really good contrast for this image. The color is very vivid. I'm loving the fact that the main petal, like the bloom, is right on that, you know, right-hand side. It intersects with the subject intersection line or subject intersection point. Then the rule of thirds, I'll tell you that right now. I can already tell. Oh man, that's a bad line. Jeez.
On the edges of the image, there are some areas that could be burned in.
Mm-hmm.
But within the image itself, I don't see anything going on.
Okay, I just see like a little bit of a burn right here. See this? And that's the only distracting part. Like if it's stark white all the way through, then I'd enjoy that. But this is a solid image. It's just that now that I'm getting a little bit more of a feel for how you shoot, just a little bit more of a feel. I'd have to see a lot more of your images to understand fully.
Right.
I'd want you to start taking more risks.
Okay. I purposely did not send you any of my normal bird. I mean, the peacock happened to be a Bronx Zoo portrait, but these are all outside my normal pattern. I usually shoot birds in the wild.
Okay, so you're already stepping out of your comfort zone.
That is my comfort zone. These are not my comfort zone. I was looking for your feedback in the areas that I'm least, accomplished in per se.
Well, I mean,
So,
I'd
so I
have to say that you're doing a pretty good job as it
Okay.
is, and it seems like you favor the rule of thirds. It's 2 images already.
I do. When I'm post processing, I've got the overlay, and I'm considering my options when I crop. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember, it's okay to break that rule. It's not even really a rule; it's just a guideline. Like you can step outside of that too. If you want a good look at really beautiful, sometimes chaotic images,
Mhm.
check out the work of David Allen Harvey.
Hardy.
Yep, David Allen Harvey.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
All right, let's look at Will Holton's work. And thanks a bunch. Okay. Now, first, we got this thing going on right here. No, I'm kidding. This, when it comes to this image, this is good. I mean, this is good. The only thing that I'd say is just moving our subjects or moving yourself so the perspective's a little different, where we don't have this emptiness right here, because it's almost like I could fit a whole nother person right here.
Yeah.
Okay. But I do like the symmetry that I have, like right down the middle with our background. Yeah, I like this. Did you put the fog in?
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
And I put Our Love Will Never Die.
Oh, you put that in there.
Yeah.
I totally thought that was on there.
Yeah, I thought that was part of the mausoleum. All right. Very cool. I was like, man, this person's really dedicated. That's great though. Yeah, I like this image a lot. I like the fact that you used a little bit of that symmetry in the background, for to your advantage. And of course you should if you have something that's so beautiful in the background. Yeah, the subjects are great. I like the inclusion of the acts that you have there. It seems fun. At the same time, I wonder, what does that mean? I wonder where does it?
It was called Till Death Do Us Part. It's the Undertaker and the zombie bride that came back from the dead. My partner did the makeup. She's right here.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool. You got a whole production team in this.
Just me and her.
You guys are doing great.
Thank you.
Will, I gotta ask, the clouds, is that a composite too, or is that
That's the real clouds.
that's in there? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay.
Yep. Freddy Krueger.
Interesting. So, I like how you're playing around with light here.
Yeah, I used a rotolite with red and blue. So those are 2 constant lights. That was in the Water Pump Authority there over on Porter.
Okay.
He happens to be an employee of the Water Authority, the guy that's playing Freddy Krueger. And my partner right here, she did the makeup, like 3.5 hours of latex and custom stuff that was done days before and then applied.
The only thing that I'd like to see in this, shallow depth of field is cool. That's fine. It's more so I want to see just a little bit more on this side of the face in terms of depth. So you can still have that creamy out of focus background, but I just want a little bit more clarity, a little bit more sharpness out of that face.
Okay.
Okay, because right now what happens is my eye keeps on shifting between the 2 sides, and it's a little bit bothersome.
Okay.
Like I'm going between these 2 sides right here, and I'm seeing that this is out of focus, and it's kind of bothersome seeing that this is in focus, but that's out of focus. So my eye keeps on switching through that, but otherwise I enjoy what I'm seeing here, and it's very creative. The other thing that I would add is if you are using a lighting system, I like that you included the blue light, but I would like to see an edge light.
Okay.
Right along here.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of highlight, just so I can separate my subject from the background even further.
Okay.
And the same thing here, if you had like an overhead right over here with that red, just so I can separate that subject from the background. So if we have a hair light, we can make sure that there's a good amount of lighting that is really giving us some displacement from all the black that's happening in the back.
Okay.
What aperture did you shoot this at?
I think that may have been around 2.8 with the 85 Sony because it was very, very, very dark in there.
I see.
And like I said, basically we just used 2 constant light. One light was shooting up, a roto light shooting up, and then I had my assistant holding a roto light over the head on the right side, So,
I see.
and yeah,
Like pushing that up to like F5.6, F8, that might help.
yeah.
Just with
Oh yeah,
just with that that autofocus, like aspect to the face here. Because I just want to see that in focus. But other than that, I like what I see here. I just want to see a little bit more of that edge lighting
yeah.
and a little bit more to that face.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's the
I thought
daughter of
that'd be a little-
Beetlejuice. That was a thing that we came up with. The series is called Replica, so we take old, classics and turn them into update classics with different stories. It's videos with it too. But yeah, that was
Okay.
the daughter of Beetlejuice.
Nice. Okay.
My partner over here again did the makeup. I come with the visions, and she, creates.
Okay.
Yeah.
The same thing as last time then. Like really all I mean the image, the color in it is beautiful. Like I enjoy that. I enjoy the creativity of this. The only thing that I change is this is just the depth of the image, just to make sure that this for me, so I could see a little bit more of those teeth in the back too, and also the moss. I want that to be a little bit more in focus, and I also want that edge lighting.
Yeah.
I want it right here, just so I could separate my subject from the background.
Right.
With that edge lighting. I even like the inclusion of the amber
Mm-hmm.
right here, but
Yeah,
I just
that
want
was a
those
wall light.
shoulders to be removed from that background.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the amber was a wall, like a wall light. Just
Okay.
showing, yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Buff up the F stop. I got you. And then
Yeah,
the edge.
just make it a little bit deeper. That's all.
And
Oh,
the edge
oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That was at Warsaw Falls. We traveled up 1.5 miles upstream, slippery shell rock, and I had a 24 mil lens, Samyang, and I had the Godox 8200 in a 4-foot softbox up about 4.5 feet over her head, and it was shot at noon, so the lighting was horrible. So to make that pop, I had to use a external light source.
Yeah, if you shot this just with natural light at noon, it wouldn't look anything like it does now, of course. And the lighting looks beautiful on her. It looks great.
Thank you.
But the only thing that I see as a little bit more of a distraction is all of this back here.
Yeah.
And it's because it's too hard.
Yeah.
Like the
you're
water's
right.
too hard. I would like it to be softer. I want you to slow that down just a little bit more so I get a little bit more of that motion blur out of it.
Yeah, I shot that at like, man, at least 2,000 shutter. At least.
Yeah, we want to drop that. Like let's drop that lower. Let's make sure that we're experimenting with our lights enough that we're getting, a good sync so we can still establish the same type of light on our subject, because the lighting is beautiful. Like, I mean, the lighting is beautiful on her. It really is. I just want that water to be a lot softer, because right now for me it's more of a distraction than it is helpful for the image.
Yep.
Now the other thing, well, I mean, I'm not really a stickler for it, so it doesn't really matter all that much. But
What is it?
I'm trying to make sure that these lines are even. Sorry, bear with me for a second.
Oh, framing. Yeah. Grid.
Yeah, like. So moving her a couple of inches over to her left.
Yeah.
And if we're going to do that, though, now we also have to worry about the distraction of this.
Right.
Here as well, too, because this isn't doing much for the image.
Right.
So I want to bring this in a little bit more, but you want that full body shot, so you kind of have to change your perspective.
Yep.
Okay. Very sharply dressed. Man.
Reverend Lewis.
Man. Just sometimes I wish that I looked that good in a suit. Let's see. I mean, lighting's fine. The background for me is just a little boring. Like just using the stark white backdrop, it's a little boring, especially with the gray and the black that we have there. Maybe utilizing just a little bit of color would be nice. I know that you can't always do that with like a corporate portrait.
Yeah, that was for Buffalo Black Achievers headshots. I did like 35 headshots.
I see.
And I just kind of like one after another, pow, 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 pow,
And how many lights did you use here?
I used 3 lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used 3 lights.
I can see the catch lights in the eyes with that.
Yeah. I had 4 foot, 2 4-foot by 4-foot diffusers, and then I had the 7-foot like umbrella bouncing off the ceiling to him, so it wouldn't leave that shine. I mean, it did a little halo on the forehead.
This is just me personally. Like, just for me personally, the lighting isn't dramatic enough.
Okay.
Like it's just I mean, it works as a corporate portrait. You get the detail that you need, but when the lighting is a little bit more dramatic, it adds this like essence to the photograph where people are very interested in looking at it, and it's like it serves its purpose. But I want there to be a little bit more shadow there.
Yeah.
Like Rembrandt lighting would be a little bit too much of a dramatic lighting setup for but maybe we could use I wouldn't necessarily use butterfly lighting for this.
I was saying the soft one.
I don't know. I have to think about this. What do you think,
I
Steven?
like the lighting. My only question was there a tungsten light overhead?
Yeah, because I could see
There
this
was,
piece
yep.
right
A
here.
little bit
Yep.
of yellow.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. That was unfortunately at the Adams Mark. So I was in the Sullivan room, and unfortunately they have those silver like grid, like a honeycomb grid type of lighting, tungsten. Yes. And then I had brought constant lights also to try to blow that away. So in the process, like I said, we got that crown halo right there, that yellow. Yep.
Yeah, we want to get rid of that because that also serves as a distraction.
Yeah.
That should be like in Lightroom or Photoshop. That should be a pretty easy. Just go in and desaturate the yellow.
Yep.
Select that out, and you can basically
select
like
that section,
cool it
desaturate
down.
the yellow out, and it shouldn't be too hard to go away.
Right.
But I think like this is a corporate portrait. You're doing production. I think this is beautiful. Like, yeah, for him to be able to use this as a profile picture, as a that's an image that he's going to be able to use for anything and everything. I think it's great.
See, and now like this is one of the parts that I enjoy about like having like Steven here for this, because the bias is apparent there. Like for me, since I like dramatic images, I like that contrast within my images. I look for something a little bit more dramatic, even when I have been commissioned to do corporate portraits. But it's just for me, for my taste, it's like I want something a little bit different out of that, and that's part of taking the risk or making some leaps when making your photographs.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it serves its purpose. Like we stated in the beginning, it serves its purpose. But that tungsten bit right in the top of the head on the forehead is distracting. The only other thing that's distracting are the ruffles in the shirt. And even though this isn't about critiquing like process of
I get it.
photographs when on set, keep some clothesline clips with you. Like keep some clothesline clips, or what do they call the ones that you clip stacks of paper with?
Paper clips?
Butterfly clips. Yeah, those work really well.
Binder clips.
And you can just pin back the shirt in the back, and then you clip it in the back so it seems tight. Okay, because those ruffles can serve as a distraction later too.
Yeah.
Right? Interesting.
That was a save the date shoot that I shot with the Sigma 105 1.4, and I was definitely at 1.4.
Yeah, I could tell. Yeah. The only thing that I mean, this boot is just, slightly out of focus. But the only thing that, since it's just it's a straightforward picture, this is something for like an engagement shoot. We
exactly. It was a save the date
for serving making just an interesting series of photographs on its own. Does it stand on its own very well? Well, no, it might be like a Timberland shoot,
Right.
But since I know that this goes towards like engagement style photos, then we let that go pretty much. And the only other thing that I'd like want to talk about is I enjoy, that blurry foreground.
Yeah.
At the same time, I want a little bit more information out of that. Like I want to see a little bit more of the texture that leads up to the boot, because we're getting that creamy out of focus blur in the foreground right against that Tim right there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of distracting for me. It's a little bothersome. And the other thing that it's funny because I'm not really like this picky in life. Like in life altogether, I don't really go this hard about things, but whenever it comes to photographs, I kind of do. Just the horizon line that we have there. Okay, we want to straighten that out just a little bit. I would enjoy the photograph much more if it was straightened.
I don't know how I missed that.
It's like it's at an angle.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, I just don't know how I missed it anyway. Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's crooked.
Yeah, it's like I love this image, and again, it's like the tone, like just that warm tone, but the texture of the denim. I think Vicente is right. If you stop that 1.4, if you stopped it down to even just like a 1.8 or an f2,
Yeah.
just so you get a little bit smoother transition of your circle of confusion. If you just get a little bit smoother, and then it would bring that one boot into focus.
Right.
Yeah, but the tone and texture of this image I love.
Yeah, the tone and texture is there. It's just that that transition that we have from like autofocus for that boot that we have right here on the right hand side to in focus and purely textured. You know, that's something that's like bothersome for me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Will.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Nice
Yeah, no
work.
problem at all. No problem at all. All right, Bruce Fisher.
Yes, indeed.
I got to stop yelling. I feel like I'm yelling. Am I yelling? Am I yelling, guys?
No. Not
Okay.
when you talk.
Your audio levels are still good.
Okay, good. Bruce Fisher. This is an interesting image. Did you just do this experimenting? Was this like, did you do this for for commission?
No, it was just, I shoot a lot of dancers over time. So I'm always looking for kind of unique ways to either light them or put them in positions. So this is the second time I've used this in-camera technique to photograph them. And one of the things I like about dancers is, of course, physique and what they're physically capable of doing compared to the rest of us. I could do this once. He could do it over and over again.
Okay.
I could do it once because I'd be on my way to the hospital afterwards. But, you never know what you're going to get because he's coated with flour, which makes that pattern around him.
Can you go? Oh, you still keep on going? Okay. So, Bruce, when it comes to this image, I like what's happening here, but I want to do this immediately. See, I want to get rid of the floor.
You know, I do that both, and I also convert a lot into black and white images because they're completely different images. A lot of times I don't know, unless there's a context of where it is he's coming, you don't really see the physical ability.
Okay. Even with that being said, it's like the floor is very distracting for me in this. Like I want to eliminate that. Let's see. I want to eliminate that floor. And also the positioning of our subject, like the placement of our subject right now is very awkward. So that's why when I zoom, let's see, I'm gonna zoom. Yeah, this is where I want to be. Like right now he is flowing a little bit more towards the left-hand side of the frame from where I'm looking at it. And I want to keep in mind that I want some sort of semblance of like organization and purposefulness in this image. So I want to put it right about here. I want to put them right about here. But also I think about when you're making images like this, there's some direction that goes into it. And for your part of making the image of controlling, you know, when you're snapping, when you're deciding to depress that shutter button, I would give some direction for him to basically move this arm up just slightly so it doesn't come in contact with this leg. Is it right here? Let's see if I can hold it and do that at the same time. I can't. Can you guys see at least a little hand moving? Yeah. Okay. So this arm, I want maybe in between these legs instead of right against that leg here. You know, it's a little bit more of a distraction for me, and utilizing the space that we have that's open and available. Also challenging myself with multiple angles. But I do like how this is. I do like how this is working. It's just I want to get rid of that floor. That's the biggest thing for me right now. I do love the color. I love the vibrancy in this. I want the positioning to be a little bit different with the hand and the arm, you know, in unison with one another. But I'm liking where it's going. And again, the positioning of my subject, I don't want him all the way into the left. For this, I want him a little bit more into the center of the frame. I mean, it also depends on how that flower is moving off of his body and how you want to create that movement and trail. But yeah, just a little bit more direction might do you some good in this. Now, this is interesting. What were the colors in this before it was black and white?
It had more of a blue tone to it because there were two gel lights on either side of the subject.
Could you send me the original as well?
I could.
Yeah, I'd like to see the original. I do like this as a black and white. This is a very dramatic image. And I love the fact that you decided to put the subject on the left-hand side of the frame. And there's like that movement that we have here, right, to the left-hand side. I do enjoy that. But for this, I still want a little bit less of that floor. Oh, ooh, ooh. Oh no. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's a little bit better for me. I just want a little bit less of that floor.
That's an easy fix.
Right about there works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The contrast and texture in the hands and arms, black and white makes sense to me here. Yeah,
it's a beautiful black and white image. At the same time, I just want to see where those colors go, like what it could be with those colors. But it is beautiful. I just want less of that floor. That's all.
They're like two different images.
Even what was that?
Black and white and the color. I mean, they both have impact. They're just different.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a completely different image in color. But yeah, positioning of the subject as well as motion and movement, I'm enjoying on this. It's just the floor serves as a little bit more of a distraction when I have more of it there, because all I'm getting is just, you know, whatever texture this is on the floor and just a slight reflection, but it's not enough to captivate me. So right about there is where I'd keep it. Ooh. Something about this might be better a little bit more underexposed. Just having that silhouetting.
You'll see one in further. I think further on, I put one that is black and white, but it has less. There you go.
This right here is just a distraction for me. Immediately, that's where my eye went, off to the side. After going from your dancer, my eye bounced over here. And that horizon line is just getting me a little, because it's at a slight diagonal, like at a slight tilt. Let's see what we can do here. Can't do that. So with the way that she's gesturing, and this is just me personally, I would keep this to a portrait style or vertical format image. Oops. Instead of having a horizontal. And that's just me. Like I want this to fill in the frame a little bit more than it does as a horizontal. But I also, now noticing, I'm gonna get rid of this. I also want there to be that slight touch of reflection in the image where her feet touch the floor. But I do really want this as a vertical.
I'm showing the original crop because the black on the background was distracting me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm showing the.
Oh, you're showing the original crop?
The original crop. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Now we're back to your notes.
Okay. But yeah, that yeah, just that upward gesture of like the finger going up into the air. My eyes want to follow that completely. It wants to go up and down that line. And I don't want there to be any sort of space on opposites, like on either side of my subject, where my eyes just bouncing around looking for information as well. Like it's just, it is distracting with all of the darkness around it. So if I were to scrutinize that and make sure that like I'm cropping it into just being a vertical, for me, that's what really works.
That's good.
For this picture, the color in this doesn't work so much. Like there's something about the warm tones that I'm seeing there that doesn't really like bounce well with the purple and the black that I have there. There's like a very pronounced yellow or orange that I want to get rid of. And also that floor. There's something about okay, so I'll suggest this. When it comes to the floor, between subjects, I'd say wipe the floor down completely. That way you can have a little bit more of that reflection, like that stark reflection that you might be looking for. Is that what you're looking for? Let me ask you that.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
In the case of this one, it's more of the gesture and highlighting the outline of the dance or the motion.
Okay. So if that's the case, then I will say that the floor serves as a huge distraction because of the footprints that I see there or whatever's left over. If that were to be wiped down completely, offering that like very, what's the word that I'm looking for, Stephen? Like when you have that plexiglass sort of look,
like a mirror.
Yeah, like almost like a mirror image of what our dancer is doing. That might help this photo a little bit more. Like I think that would benefit the photograph to have that cleaned.
And you could fake it pretty easily, right? Like you see the start of it, you see the start of the reflection of her foot going down there. So you could like, it would be a little bit of Photoshop work, but just basically just go in and black out all of the floor and then make a new layer, reverse her and make a gradient, like add a gradient so that yeah, so you see the solid reflection of her foot and it fades off as it goes.
Yeah, I mean that can definitely work too. I'm just a little distracted by the dust patterns on the floor, you know. And also, I mean, after seeing the color in this, I think I would prefer it in black and white as well.
Comparing it to the next image, I like. Yeah, I want to see it with that treatment.
All right, let's move to the next one. Ooh, very interesting. I love the color in this. Like, I love that purple. It's great. But again, yeah, for some reason, it's just, this is what I want. That right there, it being directly in the center and having all of that motion. You know, I mean, there's some beautiful motion happening here, and the way that the flower is kind of like exploding or lifting off of the subject, it looks beautiful without having the distraction of that floor. Even here is, you know, distracting. Here is distracting too. But when you really center that subject, that is something. So I'd say like pay attention to how your floor is affecting your photograph or how any outside space is, any, you know, like any of the background without too much information. Like pay attention to how that's affecting the photograph, because right now this, like you made a good base image. But to finish it off, this is where I think you could go and it would be a hit, like a complete hit.
So are you
And also, I'm pretty sure that this would work as a black and white image as well too. But I really do like that purple.
Are you almost, we're on that? It's hard for me to see where the screen ends.
Oh, here, screen ends.
On the sides particularly, it's hard
right here.
Let me see if I can.
Got it.
Okay, you can see it just fine?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks. That's helpful.
But yeah, like beautiful base image. Just I want to see more of that dancer. It's about the motion. Like for me, that's what I'm paying attention to. It's about the motion that we have there and the explosion we have there. And that color is a great complement to all of this. But again, in black and white, it could work beautifully.
I want to see a big print.
Yeah, of this, absolutely. Like with texture,
Big
yeah.
print.
Like that would be
Yeah.
amazing to see
All the-
this huge on a wall.
All the little dust particles and everything. Like, yeah, it wants to be big.
So what would you
And-
print it on? Do you have any suggestions?
Okay, so we can go a couple of ways with this. Like with that okay, so even though I try to stay on the topic of like making sure that you're getting it right within camera and not so much with like post processing of the image in terms of the critique, let's just say that you were to bring in the saturation just a little bit more of that purple that we have there. With the texture that we have, like metallic would kind of be awesome for this.
Good.
Ooh.
Yeah, like a metallic print would kind of be cool. Like if,
Yeah.
and I'll put it this way and again, Bruce, I hope that you're not taking this as me like picking this apart. Okay. The image like this, the way that it is right now, zoomed out, the way that it was sent to us. This is an image that I'd look at and go, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. But if we crop in the way that we did, crop in, there we go. Right about there. Like if I had money, like I'd buy that image, man.
Well, we
Like
can barter.
that's a good image. Okay.
Yeah, metallic print. So metallic is definitely an interesting idea. I was thinking, trying to just decide like a textured luster surface. I think it's got to be glossy.
Like luster would be okay, but glossy would be great. And then with that purple, like metallic would be awesome.
Yeah, because I've got the original image now and I'm blowing up, and it, you really can get down into every little grain of powder on there. So it's, yeah, I think like you have to play with it and make sure your blacks are totally black.
Mm-hmm.
But like once you do enough
yeah, because I'm noticing like in the background here, I could see a little bit of like texture from the curtain or background that we have there.
yeah, so
we want those blacks to be stark.
Yeah, you want the blacks to be stark, but then a big print on a glossy and a metallic, actually metallic would be a lot of fun. Bruce, have you seen a metallic print or metallic papers?
I have.
Yeah,
It really works on certain images. You're right.
yeah, and those purple tones coming out metallic it could be really cool.
Yeah, this is good. All right, Bruce, good job.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. Let's go to Stephen Neff. Who's this guy? Look at that. That's an adorable kid. This is a good photo. It's dramatic too. It's got that dramatic lighting that we were talking about earlier.
It's missing the edge light.
It's missing the edge light, yes. Like I'm getting a little bit of her ear here, but it's got that dramatic lighting that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Like I like to see just a slight fall off and feathering. An edge, it would benefit from an edge light, hair light. Benefit from that. But it's an adorable expression. It's an adorable expression. It's a nice, like tight, filled in photo. Yeah.
This is similar to Will, where it just great big softbox.
Yeah.
Right. This is a 3-foot softbox right up next to her.
And as like a little teaching bit for everybody here, just in case like you're looking at your favorite editorial images or anything like that, if you want to try to figure out not just, I mean, direction of light, you should be able to figure out with understanding how light moves and also like where you can angle it. But if you want to figure that out a little bit more in depth and also what type of light is being used, look at the catch lights, as well as look at how the light is applied to our subject matter and where it feathers.
And
Okay.
actually, I'm lying.
Because that's not. Yeah,
It's
I can
not-
tell
it's
right
not a
there.
big
Yeah,
softbox, it's a beauty
I'm
dish.
glad that you caught that I was going that direction. So like you can always tell exactly what type of light is being used based upon the modifier and how it applies to the subject that is being photographed. If you guys want to, we can definitely go over that another time just so I can keep on going with these. But we've talked about it before when I was teaching here in the lighting class. And we've also done a couple of like seminars on it. But email me and we could talk about that a little bit more if you guys like. Adorable photo. Adorable photo. Dramatic. Very dramatic. I just want a little bit more lightness on those edges. Interesting. Vertical works. Oops. Yeah, vertical works. But also I like the gesture that we have here and it being within with thirds. Come on, give me that other one. Yeah, I like that. Put it right on that, well, I'm gonna say top, that top intersection line and that left intersection point, and then Frosty the Snowman being on the opposite. I also like the texture here. Like I like this texture. The complement in color of the pink and the blue with the pink and the blue that we have on the book. I'm loving that as well too.
Yeah, this is mostly a captured moment.
Is this with your phone or with?
This is with my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was last December. My daughter, she's 3 years old, so it was. I go in to check on her as after, like, before I'm going to bed. It's late and she's in bed and she's got her Frosty the Snowman book right there,
Mhm.
and like she's got this perfect. Yeah, she's laying there perfectly, and so I'm trying to decide. All right, what's the right? What do I do to capture? Like, there's an image here. What do I do to capture it? And like, how much do I want to play around with? Like, oh, should I go get my camera? Should I should I get a light and try and add it? So the cheat that I did is I didn't go get my camera. I just used my cell phone. I think I twisted the Frosty with the book a little bit.
Okay.
And then I just I did turn the light in the room up.
I see.
Originally, the light was very, like, the dimmer was down.
Okay.
And so I rationalized with myself, like, all right, I'm a bad parent if I wake her up.
Yes.
Like, I can't.
You're terrible.
I can't go that far. But there's an image here that I want to get, and so I said, all right, I can turn the light in the room up to at least be able to capture it, and still. So yeah, so it ended up being a little bit brighter, and then I brought the light down in my phone. I brought the exposure down.
Okay.
So.
I mean, like in terms of composition, it works. It does. It works vertically. It can work horizontally as well too. I like it. I like it a lot, and I specifically like not only just the subject placement, but also the conversation that you have between her and the book, and also all the colors that we have and the book, because the book has the purple, like pink, that we're looking for, as well as the blue that is featured on her shirt, as well as the blue of the blankets.
And the texture of the blanket gave me a snowstorm.
Yeah, this is very cool. I like that. And remember, guys, the camera that you have on you in the moment is the best camera. Okay. Sometimes you don't have time to find your SLR or your mirrorless body. Yeah, you just got to use what you have. Well, that was kind of trippy for a second. It's kind of trippy because for some reason, I thought that there was going to be like a reflection from this tree down here. There's going to be a tree here. I don't know why. I would like to see this in 2x3, because this is such a nitpicky thing and it doesn't really matter all that much. But in the square, this is bothering me. I want to see where that leads to. It's like you're giving me a clue, and I want to see where that clue takes me. And that's what I'm getting out of this. But as for rule of thirds, and also cutting this almost like down the line, that horizon line that we have there, enjoying that. I'm also enjoying that there's an extension, a tree here, and then you have the bush on the top. I love that the rule of thirds is pretty much being applied. Come on. I'm sorry that this middle line's there, guys. Yeah, this picture works. This picture definitely works. I think that there's an opportunity here too when it comes to like black and white as well. The reason why I say there's an opportunity is because the tonal range of the foreground tree is a little different from what we have in the background. And imagine if you were to like dodge that and then burn these, and then dodge each of these like weeds, each one at the top, and burn this down at the bottom. That would be something. Yeah, I enjoy this, and I enjoy this especially because of like the application of rule of thirds. At the same time, I will say that it does seem a little weighted, so it's a little heavy on that left side. Like I keep on jumping back and forth from that. It being a good application of rule of thirds, but also being heavy on that left side. I want to see this in a black and white though, Stephen.
All right. Yeah, I don't see in black and white, so I'll play with it and see what I can get.
It's the weird portion of being taught in black and white, and then having to apply that all the time, and then being a color shooter. But yeah, I enjoy this. Is that all?
That's it.
All right, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this. I saw some really good images today. The only thing that I'd say in conclusion is that I want to see, if you guys want to keep in touch, like with me or even with Steven, if you guys want to keep in touch, I want to see a little bit more risk taking in the images. And I want to see like something that really makes you uncomfortable in terms of making the photograph, like really makes you uncomfortable and that you're kind of ashamed to show to somebody. Not anything weird, but like something that you're ashamed to show somebody because you're not sure where that image could go or what you were thinking when you made the image or how it's supposed to hold up. But for some reason, you really enjoy it. Like those are some images that are really good to talk about as well. So yeah, just I want to see a little bit more risk taking, but everybody did a pretty good job for our first critique. So I want to see some more. And if these guys allow me to do more critiques with you, then I would love to do more critiques with you, but let's see where else you can go.
Yeah.
If you want to keep in touch, I'm sure that Steven can send my email through the chat. Just be like on the lookout or mindful of that. And yeah, we'll talk. Pat, we already talked. Tio, we already talked. Steven, I talk to every once in a while. But yeah, let's keep in touch. Okay, guys?
Let's do it.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a wonderful night. I hope you
Thank
enjoyed
you.
this. And also, I do want to say really quickly, thank you for purchasing a ticket to this class because it does support a charity that I very much believe in. Okay. I am very appreciative of that. So thank you very much. And really, thank you for allowing me to critique your photos today, guys. It was an honor.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Vicente.
Thank
you.
everybody for joining.